I hike or walk about 17 kilometres every day, 6,000 kilometres a year. That's about 7 million steps on 50-year-old feet. So I'm pretty obsessive about keeping those feet safe, warm, comfortable and dry. G'day and welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me. I created this video on Dharawal land, land that was never ceded, and I pay my respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people everywhere. Hiking boots are probably the most important bit of gear you're going to need if you plan to walk or hike on any regular sort of basis. You only have one pair of feet, you injure them, or even just get blisters or calluses, and you'll really impact your ability to get out and about and do stuff. So you want to keep the odds in your favour, and a good pair of hiking boots does just that. I found a pair of hiking boots that tick all the boxes for me at least, and seeing as how I just bought a brand new pair, and they're all so shiny and new, I thought I'd step you through all of the things that I like about them, and give you a bit of an overview of what they're like. I hope it helps if you're still trying to figure out what's right for you. The name of these boots is Targhee 3 by Keen. They weigh in at 526 grams each, which is perfectly fine. I never understand why people skimp on protection for a few grams. There's far better ways to keep the weight down, I reckon, if that's your thing. I think this is about the 7th pair I've owned, and I love them, and here's why. First of all, the sole is really rugged and grippy, but also nicely cushioned, including a great inner sole. They're top-notch clambering over rocks, especially if they're wet. Next, they're really well waterproofed. Even when they get cracks in the creases, which they always do, they still keep the water out. Right up to the ankle. Only boots offer that. They're the perfect height. I think they call them 3/4, but whatever they are, they're spot on for me. Thirdly, they're a wide fit, which is vital for me. These boots fit right out of the box. I put them on, go for a 10-kilometre walk, and it's like wearing my old ones. It's amazing. No blisters, no rubbing, no bruises, no squeezed or jammed toes, no slipping around in the heel, nothing. I'm 6-0 on this front, and I'm sure these ones will be just as good. I've tried other brands, and whilst they're all pretty good, they never come close to these ones for wearability. And another thing I like about these boots is the laces are really grippy. They never come undone. I can't stress how bloody cool that is. I tie a single knot, and it's good to go the whole day. I've never found that with another pair of shoes, and I usually have to modify them and tie them, with double loops or something like that. No need with these ones though, and that's worth the price of admission alone. Okay, so that's a breakdown of the boots and why I like them, but how do they perform? That's a pretty important part of any decision, right? Well, I get about 3,500 kilometres out of each pair. I know that based on the fact I go about 6,000 kilometres a year, mostly in these boots, and I usually have to turn them over every 7 to 8 months. It's the sole that wears through, and that's usually the one that drives the decision to replace them. It's a bit of a payoff, I think. The sole is really well cushioned and flexible, rather than firm and durable. And that may cut down on their life a bit, maybe. In terms of day hikes, I've done plenty of 25+ kilometre hikes in them, up and down mountains, and I never get tired feet. But, it's still good to get them off at the end of the day. The waterproofing is brilliant. All leather boots get a crack in them in the creases eventually, and these ones are no different. But they remain super waterproof. I do a lot of hiking on wet trails, and these boots go hard. I love that I can confidently just wash them off if they get mud on them on the run, and my feet will stay dry. Being boots, you get that extra inch or so, as I mentioned, so provided you don't jump into puddles, they're really reliable on the waterproof front. That said though, if you do walk in wet grass or you're walking in water for an hour or so, they will eventually soak through. Or if you get water over the top, they will stay wet inside for ages, so there's that to consider. In terms of grip, they're on a par with any boots I've ever owned. Not much really to say about that. They're good 90% of the time, but you tread on some slippery seaweed when you're out walking and you're on your butt real quick. We've all done it, but that's the operator's fault, not the tools. Okay, so what are some of the downsides? Things I don't like so much about them. Well, first of all, they do get a bit smelly, especially in summer. So these ones, while they're brand spanking new now, they're going to be a bit so-so come February next year, I reckon. Hard to have the cake and eat it too. As I mentioned, if they do get wet inside, you're in for a bit of a wait for them to dry out. Waterproofing works both ways, I guess. They do always seem to get a crack along this crease. It's purely aesthetic, but if if that sort of thing worries you, be warned. But in my experience, all hiking boots tend to get those cracks pretty quickly. The cushioning and the flexibility in the sole may reduce its longevity, but that's hard to say. And if you're someone who counts every gram, they are boots. As I said, they weigh 526 grams each. And for comparison, my Asics Kayanu runners weigh in at about 300. So that's an extra 200 grams on each foot. But again, happy to cop that and maybe not carry a beer or something. Okay, cost. Well, it depends. I've paid as much as $260 for them, but as low as $170. Now, I know exactly which pair I'm going to buy, what size they are, and everything about them. So I usually buy them online, and they, never let me down. So, given that I know I'm going to be needing some in a month or so, I start looking around for savings or like looking around for sales. And you can usually find one. Anaconda has usually got my back on that. Okay, suffice to say, my verdict is they're bloody good boots. They're comfy, they're great value for money, and best of all, they really look after my feet. They look pretty good. I wear them year round with shorts and long pants, but I'm not exactly a fashion icon, so do with that information as you will. I guess the best indicator though is I find it hard to throw old pairs away. I have a couple of pairs in the garage which I wear in the garden. I leave a pair in the back of the ute, and I have a spare pair around in the house for when I go out walking in the morning in case it's going to be muddy. They're crackers. You could do a lot worse. Okay, thanks for joining me and thanks for staying until the end, and I hope you found that useful. Till next time, stay safe.